Look at him. He's just dickered. Just dickered, boys. Son of a bitch.
Yo, yo. Class A, and macro. Not connected, not elected to participate. Bouncing down the stems will make your head hurt. Enjoy the taste. Says her whose head burns from hearing horror stories. Get the gasoline, I won't forget the child. I'm sorry.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Take Her Wide. This is 204. Episodes are brought to you by DaveLevittPhotography.ca. Dave's the dude, he's a man. If you've heard this before, I'm changing it up because I've done this so many goddamn times. Dave Levitt, handsome man, El Guapo, whatever. Dave is an old friend. If you guys don't know, if this is your first time listening, go to DaveLevittPhotography.ca and check it out. Go to his Instagram page. Basically, Dave's a friend. He does good videos, music videos. He did the Sab's Guest of Honor, Fuck the Facts of Solitude, Grabert's Thunder Statement. He does promos for your band, photos, wedding photos. He's a photographer who's very handy on a comp and can do some good shit, basically. So, all love to Dave from now till the end of time. If you're listening, hello, Dave. Love you, buddy. Also brought to you by DapperBeardOil.com. That's a small company run by Andrew Rashad out of Ottawa. And the beard oil is great. It hydrates, it moisturizes, all natural ingredients, ethically sourced. He's had press in GQ and I think Huffington Post and Ottawa Citizen. And he's just a dude, you know, just like you and me. And he started this little company, so if you use promo code TakerWide free ship, you can get free shipping on some beard oil. I feel like most of the dudes listening have beards, so try it out. If anything, just give it a shot. Support him. And lastly, by Wellington Brewery. It's a brewery out of Guelph, and I was sipping on a Iron Duke. It was delicious. And if you want to support them when you go grab a beer, just buy some Wellington if you're in the area. Anyways, I don't know. I'll see if maybe I can get some fucking swag from them. Send some listeners like a shirt, a fucking brewery shirt, maybe a toque. Would you guys wear toques? Whatever. WellingtonBrewery.com. .ca. This episode, I'm talking to Maxxwell. He is a promoter and a musician from Detroit. He runs this venue called The Sanctuary. And although we've never actually met, we have been in touch, and I think he has a lot to say about running the venue and the scene there. And it's not, it's not like it's a legit spot where like bands will play, like our friends and our circle of people. So it's gonna be fun. We're gonna talk about some rad shit, and here we go, episode 204 with Max. I got a new Mac, and everything's fucked. Everything I had on my old one that worked perfect doesn't work. So whatever, I figured it out. So
that's how it works, right? It just you get the whole system down, and then all of a sudden a new wrench in the works.
Totally, man. Fuck. It's supposed to be easier with new tech, but it's like harder.
But yeah, because they want you to use all their built-in stuff and not the stuff that you've kind of built around over the last couple of years. They're like, no, do it like this. You're like, but I don't want to.
Yeah, it worked before. Why doesn't it work now? Whatever. Good problems though. Good fucking things to complain about. I'll complain about my Mac any day.
Yeah,
for sure, man. So hey, thanks for coming on, man. Like I have a lot of stuff to kind of pick your brain about, and yeah, shit, I don't know. Basically, first off, just like, man, how are you doing? You have fucking busy holidays, or was it low key? Like I don't know. It's kind of a low ball question, but just let's get warmed up with this thing.
It was actually pretty relaxing, which was kind of nice. Well, all my family like near Seattle, like in Bellingham. I mean, that's kind of close to that, I guess. So I'm all the way across the country from like all of my family, my brother and my mom and dad. So when I'm out here in Michigan, on holidays, I get lucky, and generally somebody will just invite me over, and I kind of just scab my way in and get some good food and just kind of hang out, which is pretty cool. But this year also, my furnace decided it was going to go out, and my basement has been flooding just nonstop, and I can't figure out exactly where the flooding is like occurring. So it's just been kind of a reoccurring mess. But it all started then, and that's right when like it started really dropping weather-wise too. So it was getting down to like 20 degrees, and then I was like, well, I'm kind of screwed. I have no furnace. And, you know, it's also the holiday too, so nobody's willing to come out on a holiday.
Yeah.
So it's just, that was fun. That was pretty fun.
But that's all sorted?
Yep, everything's good now, nice and toasty, and still dealing with some of the basement flooding stuff, but I mean, I have a furnace now, so that's fine. I'll take that. I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, one thing at a time. Fuck. Yeah, it's crazy. Even my furnace, man, like as it started getting cold, started acting up. I had no heat. And I have almost a 3-year-old, and it's like, wow, shit, I really took this heat for granted. Like, kind of assume it's always going to be there. Heat, you know? As simple as that.
Yeah, and then you get a little scared too, you know, especially since you're a 3-year-old, you're on, well, this isn't even just about me. I can wrap up in blankets, but I'm not going to risk this, you know, with my child.
I know, man. It fucking, there's like adult shit that you just am learning all the time. Like, oh, wow, furnaces are expensive, and I need to make sure I have heat in the house. It's not, there's no fucking teaching to like, here's how you get prepped and have everything in line. And especially when you're like, I feel like playing aggressive underground music, there's even less of a manual.
Yeah, well, I mean, because of that stuff, though, you kind of do learn that just, you know, well, you know, you do have to do it yourself, and you kind of end up figuring everything out, like, okay, I can go in there, I can rig this, I can do this, I can figure it out, and then all of a sudden you hit, like, real obstacles, and you're like, okay, well, I can't just kind of keep tinkering anymore. I kind of actually have to legitimately get somebody to come through this and just spend the money, and, you know, it's insane.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, though. Yeah, the whole, that DIY ethic definitely can apply to, like, yeah, well, fuck, I'll at least try to change my oil or change my tire or fix this or fix that. And I think it's like a healthy thing to have. Like with my kid, I really do kind of hope I'm not pushing him, but there's music around all the time, and it'd be dope because it's been such a great asset in my life, meeting people and learning, you know, like DIY sort of things, and just I got a lot out of it. So I kind of hope he kind of falls into it, but I don't know. We'll see. He's 3.
Yeah, it's wishful thinking. I think if you lead by example, it'll most likely come together as much as you can. You know, even if your child is a little bit out, all those values do sink in, you know?
Yeah, well, shit, man, I guess that's kind of a good segue. Like, with you, like, you're a musician, you know, you run the venue. How did your parents play in grind bands or what?
Actually, no. None of my family plays any music at all, actually. My dad, both my mom and my dad just retired, and I'm actually really happy for them for that.
Cool.
And they relocated out to Washington. But my dad, you know, pretty much, he was a chiropractor, so he went to school for 1,000,000 years and, you know, busted his ass, you know, did it all himself. Mom, also in the same boat, did everything herself. She went to school and became a teacher, and then, you know, pretty much got everything done through there and just kind of got out now that everything's, you know, collapsing and she can enjoy herself. And same with my dad. That was pretty cool, but I definitely think I got a lot of just like being like, okay, you know, no one's really going to do this for you, so just go off. Good luck. Do it from them, you know, because they didn't really have any resources. And that's not to say that, you know, they didn't have good families or anything like that. Just, you know, you just have to do it. Not everything's going to be handed to you, so you kind of just got to go for it and hope for the best sometimes.
That's interesting. Like, they're like, you know, I guess in their own right, successful people. So as their son, you know, you're like, I want to do music. Was it ever a struggle, or was it kind of like, well, as long as you're happy, that's cool?
At first, yes. They didn't really understand it. I think it was just more them being scared, and just kind of went off and did my own thing, you know, lived on my own pretty much like right away. So like right as I'm like getting out of high school, like right as I'm getting out of high school, not even, you know, fully out of high school, and I'm already starting to travel. I'm starting to, you know, do some touring and just getting out there. I think it just made them nervous because, you know, like their whole thing was like, well, you know, it's not that success comes from school, but obviously my mom being a teacher, you know, it's very important. She's like, you know, school is very important, learning and knowledge. I'm like, I 100% agree, and I still do. But I don't really think that if you, just by going to school, that's going to better you. I think if you want to learn, obviously, you know, take online courses for free, like you can read books. There's a million different like resources just available to you constantly. And I nothing that I wanted to do really applied to school, like as in going to college. So it just didn't really click with me. I just think that made them nervous, obviously, as most parents would be. And great now, they're very supportive because they see that, oh, well, you did it. You did your own thing, and they're proud of me for it. So it's really cool.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, man, it's because, I think about if you don't, even when we started, let's say when we were kids and doing it, we don't know what we're doing, and our parents know even less about like, what, you're going to go play music and travel? So I see the hesitation. And I was lucky. My parents were always super supportive. Like my dad, helped us pay for the first little trailer for our first tour. And I couldn't really imagine not having that support, but I would understand if they didn't, I get it. Like with my son, like I want him to do it, but at the same time, it's like, that's not easy. It's not like, it's fun, but it's not like glamorous at all. So that's cool that you guys are like on the good terms.
Yeah, and that's not to say that they didn't like that I played music. They didn't support that part of it. I just think they were very, I guess, just concerned, being like, don't get your hopes up. I never really figured I would make any money, and it's not like I did necessarily for music. To me, I was always like, well, I live in between two cornfields, 10 miles from the closest town in Iowa, middle of nowhere. To me, I'm just wanting to get out and explore and do things and have fun and, play music. And definitely it formed who I was because, you're very isolated in, small towns like that. Oh, yeah. And just even getting to travel, meeting so many people, and really just being exposed to so many different things and ideas. And it's still to this day, anytime I go out anywhere, I'm like, wow, there's so many things that I just never would have, I guess, figured out. And I very rarely, but sometimes I'll get in touch with people that I did go to school with, or at least were in my hometown that might still be there. A lot of them are still kind of just trapped in the same thing and the same ideas, and it's like, man, that's depressing. It's depressing.
Well,
they're never going to get that.
For sure. It's it takes, I think, a bit of courage to get out of that comfort zone, because like you grow up in a small town, there's like it's like its own little safety net. You know everybody, and the quirks and this and that, and it takes some courage to get out there, but it's definitely worth the squeeze. At least I feel like we're both speaking on the same sort of thing. Like, I've experienced a lot, met some amazing, like some of the most amazing, if not the most amazing people doing it, but it's not, I always am fascinated when you're a kid, because like when you started, or when I started, like you're a kid, you're in your teens, and it's crazy to think like that you're out touring at like 20 or early 20s. It's like you're not fully formed. It's fucking nuts. Like for you, so you like were in high school doing it and like touring, or like so
I started when I was like 17. That's like when I was like really actually starting to like go out of state and stuff like that. And right as soon as I graduated, it was pretty much just I'd say from like right at the end of being 17 up until probably 21, I was never home from touring more than maybe a month and a half. I was just constantly gone. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like that's the time. Imagine like, because I'm fucking 34. I look like, if I was doing that now, oh my God, I could do it, but like, it's a young man's game.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare. I'll be 30 in a couple months, and my back's all messed up. I have bad knees.
Man.
Real life stuff's going on. So I'm just thinking, oh, geez, like the idea of being gone for maybe more than like a week or 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks is still being like, man, to me that's like 3 months now.
Yeah.
But before, it's like 2 weeks was like, man, I just left.
Yeah. I know, man. Fuck. Well, all that, like, because only in the last, really, Max, I feel like in the last 5 years, we've been in touch. So, like, your whole history, I don't know. Like, what was your first tour? What your first band? Like, I like to do it like this, where it's kind of like, what was your first gig? What was your first gig like?
My first actual one. Let me try to think, because like
it could be cover band stuff too.
I'll tell you my first band. Oh wow, we were called Controlled Chaos.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, you could tell that band was going to be fantastic. It was me. Okay, the other people in the band wanted to do like kind of like grungy, like even diving in almost like Weezer type stuff. Don't get me wrong, Weezer's like actually my favorite band, so that part was appealing to me. But like when I was 14, like the bands I was getting into were like Woolhaven and just starting to dive into a lot of the Revelation catalog.
Okay.
And just, stuff that's still, I guess, like not like new metal, obviously, but you're only getting exposed to so many different things because like the internet's not widespread as it is now. Yeah, exactly. And I remember through like I would actually get the catalogs in the mail. So I'm like, I guess the last stretch where you would actually get real catalogs and stamps for CDs. And I remember living by those. It was the best feeling in the world, and discovering these new bands, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I really like I guess you could say the NorCal, like seeing like Odd Man, Woolhaven, Deftones, a lot of those bands. I really liked a lot of that stuff. It kind of started opening my eyes to like, okay, there's some weird heavy bands out there, and it went from there, obviously. But that band, I say our first gig, I want to say, was at we had a local memorial building. It's more or less like a Legion Hall, but it was run by the city itself.
Okay.
And they would you could do like basketball practice in there or plays. It was just a goofy little hall type place. And I remember we had our practice PA set up in there, and just flyered everywhere, being like, "Hey, come out to our show!" And
I love
we
it
weren't
though.
very good.
I love that shit, dude. Because like you're 30 now, but it's like it had to start somewhere. And I feel like both of us know so many people who just stopped doing it, for whatever reason. But like, yeah, I always feel like part of a team when it's like, oh, we're getting old and we're still doing the same shit when we were 16. It's like, yeah, because you look back at that 16-year-old self or whatever, and like, oh, we were so bad. But it has to start somewhere, right? Fuck.
I'm not embarrassed whatsoever because I was having so much fun. I immediately knew that I wanted to be playing music and a part of music. Whether it's just like, okay, I'm getting to do some weekend gigs. Like at the time, obviously, I wanted more, but now it's like still going. I don't care. I just want to be a part of it. It's just fun.
Yeah. Well, did you go through a whole sort of path of like, okay, we're gonna try to do this serious, we're gonna try to make it, and because I did, and as I'm getting older, I'm kind of where you're at. Like, I'm just happy to be a part of it, right? Did you go through that sort of like?
I always was just. I guess I was realistic. I've always wanted to take any band that I'm in as far as it can possibly go. Playing extreme music, let's be real, we can count maybe on both of our hands the true successful, like, making a living bands that are playing extreme music.
Totally.
And almost all of them are, dipping all of their hands in a million different areas just to survive, to be able to do those tours and stuff like that. Like, let's be real, even if each person a night is making, $200, not counting road stuff, you're still paying for everything back home, you're away from your family. Like, there's just so many things where you're not really making any money, and that's not a big deal, but the older you get, you still got to survive. You start having families, you start having, if some people have mortgages, whatever, and you're going, this just isn't cutting it. And that's okay, but it's not realistic. But for me, some of the local bands I was in, they were always just like, they always thought, I thought differently than them, I guess. They always thought the idea is like, no, you're going to get signed like this, like kind of like bullshit rock star stuff. And I was like, I always was just very aware, like, none of that actually happened. For every band that actually happens like that is 20,000 that are just sitting on their ass forever, or doing the whole like, oh, well, we've got our cover set, and then we've got our originals, and that's getting the people in. I'm like, yeah, what are any of those bands doing? I mean, if they're having fun, hell yeah, support it. But most of those bands take themselves so seriously. They're going, fuck, this is rough.
Where do you think that comes from? Because like, I feel like that's insight as an older man that you get, as you get older. But like, so you said you were young and you kind of realized that. Like, I feel like that's rare, because I was totally oblivious. Like, oh man, we're gonna do a demo, we're gonna get signed, it's gonna be so easy. Like, you kind of had foresight, but where does that come from? Where do you think that comes from?
lucky enough to being exposed to, I think, some older people that, like, I never really, I don't know, the music that I was always interested in, nobody knew about anyway. So I guess in my mind, I was always like, well, no one's probably going to like the music that I'm wanting to do. And I just kind of accepted it. I was like, bummer, but it is what it is. The mass population's probably not going to like it. That's cool, though. If I can still do stuff that I want to do and maybe have moderate success, maybe people get into it, I guess that was exciting enough for me. And I also just saw, like, I mean, you can put two and two together. Like I said, you just see, even on a record label, how many big bands there are. Who's, listen to the radio. It's the same rotation. Maybe it changes year to year a little bit, but these bands are still in continuous rotation, and you can count them on your hands. So I'm going, there's not really much room for another quote-unquote big band that's going to get signed. I guess I just saw that kind of stuff, and I was like, so this doesn't, none of this matters. Just play gigs, have fun, try to do your own thing. If people are into it, they'll catch on. If not, well, probably that's what's going to happen anyway, so who cares?
Yeah. Well, and the reality of the ceiling of success of heavy music, and I talk about this a lot, is like it's low. The ceiling of, like, our buddies who are in quote-unquote bands that some other people might be like, well, they're a big band. It's like, well, maybe, but what does that mean? You know, like, they still live at their parents' house.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's like, I mean, I don't need to say anybody's names, obviously, but you see a lot of these bands that are, like, playing even 500 to 1,000, capped rooms, like, and for more extreme music, but they are living with their parents, and they're like 35, because it makes more sense financially instead of paying for an $800 apartment, that you're going to be at only a couple months of the year, really, at the end of it. And I also see how a lot of those bands aren't having any fun.
Yeah.
They're like, is it on the road? It's a job now. They have a certain shtick that they have to do because it appeases their fans. I guess at that level, and just a lot of dorky things. And I get it; it's playing the game, but it became a complete business at that point. So it's like there's a trade-off at some point. You're like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, I do have to do this.
Yeah. Well, and I think about that, and it's almost, I feel like, a blessing that none of the bands I was in ever, like, whatever, caught that fire, because I think about that, More Money, More Problems, Biggie song, or Puffy song, and it's kind of the truth. Like, there's more, it's not as simple as it gets easier. Like, if anything, it gets harder. And right now in my life, there's absolutely, I have a tour coming up that's a 10-day thing, and I'm, like, I'm excited, but, like, I'm going to be away from my kid for 10 days, and he's gonna know that I'm gone for 10 days, so it's like, we're a little rinky-dink band, so I don't know, I'm kind of happy that at least right now, that nothing's really catching fire, because I wouldn't really know what to do. And this really makes me respect the guys who, like you were saying, that are older, that are still doing it. It's like, wow, you're still doing it, man. Like, fuck. Like,
yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of sacrifice, and a lot of people don't really respect it, or maybe I don't think they actually understand it.
I think what it is, yeah.
They see something that's different than actually going on. Sure, like, they are having a great time playing. Everybody is, for the most part. But, there's a lot of still, like, downsides to it as well, outside of the maybe 30-minute set that you're playing, or if, you're bigger, I guess, like an hour or whatever. But, the travel, that's pretty, taxing on you, too. People forget that, when the older you get, it's just not as easy to be lifting gear and to be doing those long sets. And, I guess it sounds like super cheesy, but it's like it is, though. It just, you can't do it as well as you could when you were young and you hadn't hurt yourself yet. Because it always comes after, like, one small, like, throughout your back, or, you know what I mean? Like, maybe you popped your knee a little bit, and then it's like, okay, I'm okay. But now that I'm doing all this, like, it's starting to really act up more and more and more and more. And then all of a sudden you're kind of being like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm 50.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing about the aggressive music. Like, we could have both have played indie rock or something that's not as intense. And I feel it a little bit now, but it's like I'll feel it more and more as I'm getting older. Like, it's aggressive music. You're head banging. You're kind of moving around, and, like, I'm a drummer, so, like, I'm physically exerting myself, and there's a cap to that, how long I can do that. And even, like, let's say a guy like Dave Whitty, like, he's, I don't know, 40s, in his 40s, and still ripping, so it's kind of like, for me, that's amazing. I'd love to play like how he plays, but even him, any guy who's aggressive, like at some point, your body can't sustain the aggressive stuff. So looking back, it's like, shit, I love music, but maybe, I wonder what it would be like if I was just playing like soft music.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I think a lot of the influences I'm drawing over the last couple of years have come from softer bands. It's really weird. Like I guess even like today, like the stuff that I've been listening to a lot. I just found out about this band called Sloth Rust. It's just like a weirdo, like kind of indie grungy band or whatever. But some of the riffs are like super super heavy. It's just executed differently. But it's been really cool, kind of diving into a lot of these different genres, because I'm hearing these riffs and then I'm thinking, ooh, what if you twisted it like this? And then, you start thinking of like your own riff ideas, but executed in like maybe a grind way or a hardcore or like, power, any of that stuff. And then, you just have a whole new surge of songs. And it's really funny that it's not coming from listening, oh yeah, well, I was listening to Drop Dead for, 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
But I listened to this band and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm getting like real, like, just jazzed up and like,
for sure,
lots of ideas.
Yeah.
But then I'm almost envious that I didn't think of cool ideas in that genre, like you said, where it's like, oh, I can just kind of jam out. Nope. Yeah. Still back to the heavy stuff.
Well, shit, man. Like you've been playing in heavy bands since you started, but as far as like again, like I have a perception of you. That's why I'm excited to talk to you, because like I know you, but I don't know you, so I'm getting to know you. But like your bands are mostly aggressive, but at this point, because I'll think about it, like shit, maybe I could start something that's not an aggressive band. Like do you have other bands that you're starting to like, even with like listening to these other softer bands? Are you inspired to start like a non-aggressive band, or where are you at as far as bands and making music at this point?
It's really scary for me to even think about trying to do like softer music, because I'll start trying to write something and I'm like, this is terrible, and I immediately scrap it. I guess I'm just so stuck. And it's not like, I think all my bands right now are completely different genres, but I still feel like I guess you could tell that maybe I wrote the song, if that makes sense. Like, definitely, everybody kind of has their own type of writing. You can hear like in any of like these bands that have a million offshoot projects, they might sound different, but you're like, oh, I can tell this dude or this girl, wrote this. But like every time I try to do something that's a little bit more tame or like, soft, all of a sudden 5 minutes later it's heavy again. I don't know. I can't I just can't wrap my head around it, like at least with guitar. But like with drumming or something, I would love to do that. I would love to play drums and more of, I guess, kind of like not a rock band, but just like a weirdo indie band that kind of, gets a little noisy and a little, out there. Just some weird stuff. That's really fun.
Yeah. Well, I get it that it's like a creative muscle. Your creative muscle has been flexing for aggressive music, so you just try this other muscle, and it's like, oh shit, I didn't work out this muscle. So I hear you, man, because like I've tried like maybe like a hip hop thing. Well, actually, I've tried a hip hop thing, but it's like, man, this is kind of terrible because I haven't been honing this skill of writing, because I've been doing that in the aggressive stuff. So it's at a point where it's like, okay, easier to do, but to start from zero, or to start from like, ooh, my 16-year-old self again. Because we look back at our 16-year-old self, and it's like, ooh, I'm glad I was 16 when I was doing that.
Oh, I know. You had all the years of trial and error, and it's like, so that's already out of the way, and you're at least in a comfortable area to play. And then when you try something different, and it's like, I guess every artist does think that, their songs are good, otherwise they wouldn't be playing them. But, if you feel like, okay, this part of the stuff that I play, like these bands, I feel very comfortable and I feel confident in this, and then all of a sudden you're trying something completely outside of, your comfort zone, and all of a sudden I'm just like, this is not at all on par with this stuff right here, and I get too embarrassed, and it's probably not even that bad. It's just, I guess I'm putting a standard on it, maybe,
which is
and then
good.
I immediately scrap it.
Yeah, it's good to, well, the thing is, the standard, like, oh, I know that this is good, and you can tell. I think it's the truth, man. Like, at least for me, I could tell, like, this isn't good enough to put out there, because I could, and there's people who do, and it's always kind of like, oh, shit, that's cool, you did it, but maybe you should have taken more time before you released it and honed it a little more. But that makes me sound like an asshole. Make sure it's good for me before you release it.
I feel like they would feel better about it too, though. I mean, there's no problem taking your time on something and having it done right. I mean, I think people will know what's right too, instead of just, I got to get it out. It's like, is there really like an expiration date? If you're not a huge band, what deadlines do you have other than just like yourself, which could be just take your time with it. People are probably going to listen to it or not listen to it either way. It's not like 3 weeks before or 6 months before it's going to change that drastically. Nope, we missed our opportunity. Everybody was going to come knocking because we didn't hit the 3-week window.
Totally, man. Well, and it's like, you sound like you're comfortable in your skin musically, but I am too, but there's a part of music that is selling it and the whole business end of it that makes it tricky because it costs money. Most creative things cost money. If you're a painter, you got to, sell your shit, but you also spend that money, and it changes. It's an unfortunate part of it that if you want to do well, you kind of have to take it serious. And even like we were saying, like wait till it's ready to release, but then all that other shit kind of changes it. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, hey, how do I execute this the best way I can? Because I can't afford to not. Like, I can't lose money on it anymore. And I don't want to waste my time or anyone else's time. So it's tricky. Do you feel the same way? Because I just mostly speak to your age, like 30. We're not young, so.
Yeah, I take everything a lot more serious now. Like anything that I'm recording, I have now an exact standard of what I want to be doing. Same thing with artwork, packaging, stuff like that. I mean, if it's going to be done, it might as well be done right. If somebody's going to buy your music, you should probably give them something worth their time. If you're just trying to ship something out to do it, I mean, whatever. I can't judge on that. That's their own prerogative. But for me, I'm going, somebody is, out of the millions of bands that are literally happening right now, and there are so many freaking bands. If anybody's taking any time to listen and to maybe, if I'm lucky enough to, like, I guess, buy it, they like the music enough that they were interested in buying it, yeah, I want to give them something very quality, and I think it also shows respect for those people that are interested in your band, too. I think some people, it's like, obviously, it's like, oh, we don't care. I'm like, yeah, exactly, that's kind of my problem with it. You don't care, and that's a little, I don't know, kind of a slap in the face, I think, to certain people who really are into the band. And like, I mean, if clearly your thing is like super 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 lo-fi, I get it, like that's obviously a part of what you're doing, but like if you don't sound like that live, why are you doing that on like on your demo or on your 7-inch and stuff, especially if a label's putting it out and investing a lot of time, effort, and like being willing to more or less give a chance, being like, well, we just spent like $1,800 on the 7-inch, and you didn't care. It's just that's so crazy to me. I can't even imagine. I'm like, I want it to be like, here's the best thing that we could possibly do. At least in my eyes, like I don't think we could do any better outside of spending, twice of what we just did. Like, within our means, we gave you the best thing that we could possibly do, and hey, we'll try and promote it too. Like, I guess you do have to be willing to also step out of the comfort zone too, and like tell people about it. It's like, it does kind of suck. Like, if you're going, I don't want to come off as that person who is, be like, hey, check out my band.
Yeah, like, I know, man. I know. It's definitely rough. I think if you though talk about it from being, being obviously very passionate and like, you're genuinely excited about a thing, I think that's a little bit different than kind of like, hey, bud, check it out. Hey, pick it up, buy the pre-sale ticket. We're opening for so-and-so at this venue. Haha, help out, nudge, nudge. Like, ugh. Yeah, well, I feel like it almost shifts. Like, there's like those type of bands. There's a type of person who's into that, and then like bands who do it the other way. There's a smaller pocket of people who are into that. Like, what you put out there, it's like a magnet, right? It'll draw. And for me, like, I want to draw a certain type. So it's like, yeah, I want the art to look good. I want it to sound good. I want to do my best to, again, like, I don't want to waste my time. And yeah, like you're saying, I don't want to waste anyone else's time, because nobody has to give a shit about our bands. No one has to.
Absolutely not. Exactly. And I am so thankful that anybody would even think about it. They could pass over, because there are so many good bands too. And it's like, it's not that there's just so many bands. There are so many good bands playing music right now is kind of overwhelming, and I think it's almost a problem. It's not that there always hasn't been, good bands, but it's so readily available now. Like, everything is right there, and it's crazy, Like, I discover new music every single day. All of a sudden, like, I use, like, Apple Music or whatever instead of Spotify, whatever, it doesn't matter, but my list just keeps growing, and sometimes I almost forget about bands that I really liked, and I'll revisit it like a month or two later and be like, oh yeah, I forgot. I just found this band, and I liked them, but I found these 15 others that I just also was blasting through their records. So it's easy to get lost in the shuffle.
Oh man, yeah, 100%. It is totally a problem. It 100% is. It's just a weird byproduct of the internet, really. But it even highlights more why your shit should be good, or you should try to make it good, because it's like, yeah, you're in a sea of fucking other people who are for whatever reason better. So you need to fucking make sure you do your best, man. But it's fun. It's still, for me, man, like, it's still fucking fun. Like, the whole thing, making the music, planning it, pressing it, playing it, like, it's fucking fun. I kind of think of it as like, it's when I was a kid starting to do it, I had a certain amount of skills, but now I have more skills, so it's kind of like, it sounds like maybe a bad metaphor, but like a painter, man. Like, you paint, you have an image in your head, and then you can paint that image easier and quicker. It's so much fun right now, and there's a lot of times where I probably could have stopped, but like, how about you? Like, do you ever want to stop doing it? Was there ever like a tour where you were like, fuck all this?
Well, not exactly like stopping music. I've definitely stopped certain bands, like, just like being completely over the band and like, I guess that style that we were doing because of members. It's never been anything other than members, like, because being in a band with people is miserable a lot of the time. Oh, yeah. You're very reliant. They are so much, a part of everything. I understand more and more why there's people that do solo stuff later in their life, just because they're like, I have nobody else to rely on but myself. So if I'm let down, at least I'm mad at myself and not, two other people that are just sticking around. And then, you're going, oh, geez, like seriously? Seriously?
Yeah.
But now I've tried to almost condense every group that I'm in to the most minimal amount of people possible. And not just so it's like we can all focus on what we need to do, and it just makes things simple. Like with Dead Church, we're just a 3-piece, which is kind of amazing. Even though it's like I would like to have a bass player in that band, I'm just going, I don't want to teach somebody 30 songs either at the same time. Like, I'm going, oh God, that sounds miserable. And then, but then I find myself in another band that I'm in, and we have 2 guitar players now, including myself. So I'm like, wow, how did that happen? I've always kind of been trying to, scale it down, but it's hard. Just
sorry to cut you off, but like, it's like this, you hone your skill as a musician, but you also hone your skill in like the role of yourself in a band and the other people that make it up. That's like, it's super hard to find the right people, and it's a shame when there's people who stop because they're just like, say they're in a band and they can't deal with the people. They're just like, fuck this whole thing. Where it's like, maybe not fuck the whole thing, maybe just fuck the band and start another band and continue on.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like a lot of people definitely get bitter towards music because they do come in, and I do think that, they put all their chips on the table, but maybe they weren't willing to accept that, like, they weren't going to be necessarily, like, the most successful. Like, and I mean, you have to also gauge what success is to you is a huge thing. And I think so many people think, oh, I need to be a big band, and I need to be, we need to be big, we need to be making lots of money, and I'm going to have the most fun. I'm going, to me, I've always been like, I'm just happy to, anybody would be interested in seeing us. That's cool. So we get to travel and play. That's way sick. Don't get me wrong, everybody's happier, I think, playing in front of a larger crowd, potentially. I think that's always the goal, but it just, I guess I've always been in that place of, like, even if there's 10 people that are just stoked, that's awesome. I don't care. I really don't. I just want to play. I love playing music. It's therapeutic.
Yeah, fuck, man. Well, for you and for people who are there at the show, too, it's really a crazy thing to tap into, that sort of, and it's so fucking cliche, but like the therapy of it, or the flow state, the mental state that you get into, that I'm sure other people get, an athlete or maybe a parent or something like that. But yeah, well, it's just, it's like we both know people who've stopped, and I always kind of question, like, why did they? I'll never know, but it's kind of a fun thought experiment.
I think a lot of them, just like I said, they kind of reach a point where they grow almost bitter. Like, because the older you get to, the more disconnected you are with what's relevant. It's just how it is. You kind of find the stuff that you're into and things that you think are cool. Well, 10 years later, you're probably still going to think a lot of the things are cool. I'm sure you've grown, but like that's your idea. It's kind of like I remember being 15 and seeing a lot of people, like that was like 2000. When I was like 15, like 2003 or something like that. But I was still seeing people that were dressing like that are playing like they were older than me. They were more or less dressing like 1996. You know what I mean? Like that style of like clothing. And then you're seeing still people that from 2005 era right now. You'll see them like randomly. It's like, wow, where did you come from? Because you still look like somebody from 2005, but it's in 2018. And whatever you find cool, that's kind of what you stick with. You know what I mean? And I think the further removed you become, and even with music, you're like, well, this is what I like, but nobody else likes it anymore. And you almost get bitter about that. It's kind of like, sorry, trends change, people change, I mean, if you want to play different types of music, also try that. Like, you don't have to just do one thing. And I think everybody kind of feels like they kind of do, and wait a minute, everybody's against me. All my friends don't go to shows anymore. Like, it just, a lot of things just aren't the same. Like, other people dropped out because, like, oh, I just went to shows because it was something social to do. But, again, how we talked earlier, I've got a mortgage, I have a wife, I have kids, I have a husband, whatever. And so less of your friends are coming. Financial burdens are stressing you. The things that you thought are cool are not there. Maybe you're not relevant anymore. Maybe like I said, all your friends are there now. You might be the older person, and nobody is into the same stuff that you're into. It's kind of like all of a sudden being like, oh, like what are you into? It's like, okay, I like these kids. Like these kids, like at the show, maybe like I'm into Little Peep, and this person's going like, I don't know what that is. Like just maybe it's not relevant to them, and then they feel like they're an outsider almost. So the things that you love about it aren't there anymore. But it's not like they're not there. They're just what you were into. Maybe has been just. It's gone. Yeah. It's in the past now. So I think that's kind of one of the big things. You just don't feel the same things you did before because of all those different things piling up.
Yeah. Well, it's such a. I think if you're a music fan or a music maker, it's a huge part of your identity, and to have that threatened in any way, I've experienced it, at least myself, in the changing gears into a home life and a married life. It's definitely like, whoa, it really made me realize, like, holy shit, that was a huge part of, if not like the biggest part of who I am. Like redefining myself now has the last 3 years, last fucking 10 years have been a whole adventure of a shift. But I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad that I think that if you throw all your chips into the whole band thing, it's like, why? Like, you can do both. You can make music and do that whole wear black shirts and fucking horns up or whatever, and also have a good job and have like a stable life. Like, why does it have to be either or? It can be both. But I feel like some people maybe sell themselves short. And I don't blame them, because it's kind of like, to be successful musically, you almost have to throw yourself as hard as you can at it, especially with heavy shit.
Yep, and sometimes when you threw everything at the wall and none of it stuck, and then you just feel like kind of like it's almost like you're embarrassed. So it's easier just to kind of check out and find new interests, and it's like that makes me really sad. But I guess like I said, for me, I never was really worried about it. I mean, I've always been kind of a dork, so I never expected anything ever. I had no expectations. I was like, cool. Let's go. So no matter what, I was always going to be happy. I think that's what kind of kept me going. Like, just like, I'm still getting the same feeling. I felt dorky back then. I'm still dorky now. It's all cool. I get to play music. It's cool. This is great.
Well, shit, man. Are you guys as Pure Hiss playing MDF?
Yeah, we are. We're playing Sunday, actually, which should be really cool.
That's cool, man. Like, how does that kind of come about? They hit you up, or you just hit them up, or like that's a bigger sort of fest. So how did that come about?
One of my old bands had played, so I kind of got to know the dudes that run it, and I just kind of sent a feeler email out, actually kind of more anonymously, just being like, hey, one of my old bands has played this. You might be into this, more or less. Like, maybe you're into this. We would love to come play.
Cool.
Checked it out, and he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, cool, great. Very simple, but that's kind of how they work. They either hit you up, and because they're about it, and like, I'll give them this. They do have their ear to the ground about newer bands, because, I mean, if you look every year, there's tons of new cool freaking bands that are playing. And I'm not necessarily saying that about us. I feel like we got lucky, but it's just I do see a lot of cool bands. I'm always like, wow, I haven't heard of these bands. It's because they are constantly trying to check out new things that are happening and are down to give people a chance just to play. That's pretty
super cool. Hell yeah, man. Well, because again, like music and the whole business end of it, like a thing like that isn't free. It costs money. So to get bands on that aren't gonna draw mad people is really fucking super cool. They don't have to do that. No one has to like your band in a model like that. That's sort of, they can't lose money to sustain, to take a risk, or to just like, we'll let these cool bands play because we like good music, versus like, we need people to sell tickets and to stay afloat. It's a tricky success. Like, it's a tricky game to be successful in, but I love it. That's what makes it so great. Like, hell yeah, support the small guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, if you don't do that, you're not going to have any new bands for the future, too. Everybody's got it. Like, you got to throw bands a bone and see what they can do. A lot of times you're going to, have misses and stuff like that. But, I mean, it's just like, because I book shows, and I try to do that a lot. I'm always like, okay, I do kind of like a feeler system. Like, the way I've always kind of viewed it as, like, if I'm helping out, let's say it's like a smaller touring band, like a newer band that's been kind of bugging me to get on shows, I'll be like, hey, play this show, promote the fuck out of it, bring out some people, and like that's what I'm saying. It's in my mind, and I'm just going to say, hey, promote it. Let's do this, And if they're down to do the smaller show, they're down to promote it and bust ass. Absolutely, I will be going to bat for you and get you on some of the bigger shows that come through. Because to me, it's just like, you're looking out for me, I'm looking out for you. We're both in this together, Like, we're trying to make everything as successful as possible. But like, there's so many bands though that do kind of just expect to like immediately be on the big shows, and I'm going, don't sell yourself short and play, some dorky pay to play, or just a show that makes no sense just to play a gig. But like, don't be afraid to play something like with some of the smaller bands. Get your feet wet, introduce yourself, and just work as hard as you can. Show, like, just bring people out, like, and if you can't do it, you can't do it. But I would rather have a band too that's promoting, and maybe not everybody came for them, but because of them, people saw about the show and came to the show. They're like, oh, I've seen the flyers, I've seen about this, I've seen people posting. Like, it really does take everybody. So it's I've always tried. I like them for that too, because I feel like they also do give people a shot, and not enough people really do.
Yeah, well, you're in a unique position because you throw shows, and you've done it for years, so you really kind of get to play that role of like, I want to help new guys out, but also you can't just not sustain. Or even that, just like, to throw a show is a fucking headache. To host it is a headache. It's not super fun, and it has to be worth your time. So yeah, man, like, you could speak on that for fucking ever, running shows, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially like with running a venue, because you're trying to pack out the month, but you're also trying to make it worth everybody's time, and especially for the bands coming through, yourself, the locals, covering your expenses, sorry, you got to eat, so you got to make money. Like, there's so many different variables that you do have to hit, and a lot of people don't really realize that, everybody wants to almost, like, I guess, knock on people for making money until it's their money that's on the line. And it's very strange. Like,
that's...
I've seen it. How it works.
Do you live at the venue, or do you own the venue?
Okay, so The original location closed in October, actually, because the neighborhood that I was in was kind of going downhill and just continuously having, security problems getting broken into, and just, you can kind of see where things are going. It's just one of those where you're like, oh, geez, it's not going to get any better anytime soon. And there's nothing worse than leaving your property, which I did live above, and I still do temporarily. I'm about to be into the new place. That'll be here in about a couple weeks, so it's been a process.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, lived on top of there, and I closed the doors. I was like, I'm done with this. I can't be running a business and stressing out all the time over, if I'm leaving for 2 seconds. Like, pretty much everything's, locked up in the storage right now, so I'm just kind of like coasting, which is fine. But it's just, it's a transition period. So I was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just out for a while. Like, it's one of those where it's kind of like wiping the hands. I need some time apart, because I've been running hard for like the last 4 years. And then I got a really crazy opportunity and found a new location, and things just kind of fell into my lap like almost immediately. It's really wild. And so almost immediately after, I didn't have a second to breathe, and it was like, okay, well, like, let me think on this. And within the week's time, it was literally took like a week for me just kind of thinking about it. I was like, what am I doing? This is like, I was already so bored, and I was so like, wow, I don't want to work some other stupid job, like even at the most stress that I've ever had running like my place, it's still like so much more fun than it would ever be working a crappy job. So I was like, you know what, let's go in. And the last couple months I've just been going hard, going through all the legality stuff, getting ready for closing, and like, cause purchasing a building, and I have a partner this time around, which is really cool. That's been very, very helpful in getting everything kind of done. And it's going to be a lot bigger and grander, and there's actually an apartment above the new place, and that's going to be cool. So I'll be living up there, and
man,
it's a wild ride.
Yeah, man. Like, and again, because like, yeah, people don't have to like your band, but people don't have to be throwing shows, because it's not super great. It's super stressful. And man, fuck, that's crazy. Because I've been seeing online, like, shit getting stolen and people trying to help you out. But it's like, it almost seemed like you kept getting knocked down. You'd come up and you get knocked down, and like, fuck. So when is the
Chumbawamba song? You know what I mean?
Your life is a Chumbawamba song. Fuck. So the place now is closing soon, and when's the next one opening?
Okay, so the place is currently closed. This is what happened. So I was doing another show, actually at another venue. I was doing the Life and Death tour at just some whatever bar, but it was a bigger cap, because that show does almost 400 people, and my cap was not that big. So I was doing that. It was a killer show. Everything went really awesome. Had a great time. On a super high. Come home and see my place get broken into again, and it's just like one of those. I'm like, are you fucking serious? I had to go from such a high to a low, and this time around it wasn't like, cause I have legitimately steel doors, gating on everything, and on all the windows and stuff too, barred off. So it's like, it's an impenetrable fortress. They somehow were able to break out block glass windows. I don't know if you know what those are, but they're supposed to be you're not really supposed to be able to break those out.
Wow.
So the people that broke in smashed those out, which takes time, and it's really loud, and it was one of those I was like, really? Yeah, and it kind of just hit me. I was like, no matter what I do, if, people are going to do whatever apparently it takes to get in here. What am I supposed to do? Redo the block glass windows, rebar them off, and then just wait again for somebody to figure something else out, So I was like, done. So I announced it 3 days later, being like, you know what, closing. I can't take this anymore. I'm going to look into future things, and then did the last show here was Terror, Bent Life, and Left Behind Entertainment. That's what it was, yeah. And it was a cool send-off, though. We had 350 people packed in here, and it was just wild. Lots of balloons and everybody. It was really fun. It was a good send-off, And then the new place should be open at the end of April. And it's looking like the projected time frame now.
Cool.
So finishing all the closing, way better location, nicer room. I've already spent quite a bit of money getting new things together. Like I completely updated the PA system. Like it's like everything is going to be like 1,000%. Like I guess you could say, competitive with any of the major venues in the city.
Wow.
But
That's
still
cool.
have yeah. So like there's nobody could possibly come in and be like, oh, well, I have these better menus. Like I mean, outside of being in a bigger cap room, like going up to like a 500 cap, you're not gonna really have anything that's like somebody could say that's like, well, this is better. It's like, well, no, this is either the same or just as good, which that should be the goal. Keep it competitive, keep it nice as you can, but I don't want it to be like you say douchey either. I'm not trying to have like just like a broy club. I'm just trying to be like, nope, it's a music venue first and foremost. Everything else is secondary, because music is like the whole point of it. I'm not trying to do some dorky place, I guess. I don't know. There's a million of those. We don't need another.
Wow. Yeah. Fuck. What a fucking like ride. Because think back to like your first show you threw to now, and there's these little pockets that music you can fall into, that you can sustain yourself in. But I think a venue owner, runner, promoter is a little nichey one to do successful in. What was your
and not to be also a jerk either, because a lot of people involved in music really suck. I mean, that goes for bands too, but I mean, like, I try my best to keep it as ethical and it's fair, and like, I guess I know both sides of it. I know the business side of it, and I know that being a musician too. So to me, I'm going, okay, what's the most happy medium I can find? Because you do have to worry about your bottom line. Sorry, there are bills. I have to still keep the doors open. That's just the thing. The lights on, keep the doors there. But the bands also have to do the same thing. It's a working marriage. We both have to be able to survive, and sometimes too, the crowd really needs to be the one to step it up, not being jerks about, hey, this is a $15 show. Oh, it's so expensive. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's
no kidding.
4 touring bands. There's 4 touring bands. Like, what do you expect them all to make $100?
Dude,
and then
that's
how are they going to live off of that?
So crazy, because I look at old flyers from friends, like 94 $5 cover, and like,
yes,
I'll be on the road. It's like $8 cover. It's like, we're in 2018. What the fuck? That's the craziest thing. Like everything else has gone up except cover. Like even shirts. Only recently have I been like, maybe we should charge $15 a shirt, and like kind of feeling bad. Yeah, that's literally
in the last like 2 years I've seen that, and it's one of those where you're like, I don't know, but then thankfully more and more people are doing it, so you feel a little bit less guilty, I guess. So you're and you shouldn't even feel guilty. It's like, sorry, for most printing shops, it's going to cost like, I mean, it's unless you're having a buddy do it. If you're going to a print shop, a one color shirt's like $7 to $8.
Yeah, totally, man.
And you're selling it for 10.
Yeah.
You're selling it for 10? No, like, you can't make $2. And then you gave away 3 shirts because you made some friends. So now every shirt that you sell at $10, you're losing money.
Totally.
You gave away a couple of shirts.
The cover thing is the craziest thing. How like covers should be 10. They should be 10. Like,
yes, bare minimum.
Yeah, totally. There should not be $5 shows. It's not.
I actually started pretty much saying that for almost every, like, the only time I would say, I understand $8 for a local show, but that's once again keyword local show where nobody's driving.
Yep.
But like, I won't do any touring band for under $10, and I've really kind of, all the promoters that come through, I've said the same thing. I'm like, you should do your show at 10. Oh, I'm worried about it. I'm like, I'm telling you this. Nobody's going to be, if you're doing it as a $5 show or even an $8 show, they're paying you at the 10. I will bet money on it.
Yeah.
It's so rare you're seeing somebody coming with a $5 bill, or they're probably going to pay with the 20 because they went to the ATM.
Yeah.
So they had $20. So, and everybody does have to survive. It's just, you can't get away with it, Well, man, we had 60 people through the door at a $5 charge, and it's just
kidding.
like,
no kidding.
You're going, cool. Imagine if you did $10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is fair. Like, that's not like gouging. That's just fair.
No, I know. And I feel like it is shifting, man. I feel like it is slowly. It's just taken so fucking long, but it is shifting. I see 10 more than I see 5. I still see 5, but I'm seeing 10 more and more, which is kind of a long time coming, but fuck. Like, as a band, it helps. And even for you, it's like, it helps you too.
helps everybody. And like, because flyers aren't free, like a sound person is not free, a door person is not free, the venue's not free, your time is not free, gas isn't free. Like, you can name a million things that aren't free and that $5 won't cover. Because, okay, you make 200, let's say the touring band makes like 250. Okay, well, they probably didn't get food because they're only getting 250 with their guarantee. That means if there's 5 people, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, so 25 that immediately gone for food. If you're only giving each member $5
a day,
you have insurance. So and then think about it. Like, there's cell phones, there's insurance, there's the gas, there's maintenance. You probably blew a tire, almost guaranteed. You lost something.
Or even the initial investment to get on the road, your shirts and the merch and...
Yeah, like everything. Yeah. And then you're selling the shirts, hoping that, like, well, that's at least a little extra money because we only made $20 tonight. And it's just like, how... Yeah. It's crazy to me, like, that even in 2018 that a band on tour... outside of maybe drawing, if you're a band that only draws 3 people, you probably should be touring anyway, but that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, we're on tour and we only got paid like $30. Like, that just boggles my mind. Yeah. I'm going, how?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, man. Well, it's at the point where it's funny though. When that shit happens now, it's like, wow, this is like a movie. It's like, we just made $2. I'm 33 years old. Like, wow. All you can do is laugh, like, oh, whatever, fuck.
Yeah, you do have to just laugh it off because you know the game.
Yeah.
But, you just... And what's even crazier is, because technically the shows have like declined in attendance. You know what I mean, for smaller bands and like I guess upcoming bands. Until you're hot, you're not really seeing like bigger numbers. But I remember in like early, like mid 2000s, let's say, you could be a smaller band and you'd be playing in front of like 300 people.
Yeah. Like
in a lot of areas, like some of my like old bands, we would be playing in front of just like these huge crowds, like on these tours, because people were excited about music. And then I'm also thinking of this, like, okay, some of those were even $10 shows, which is whatever. But if there's 300 people times 10, they math. But then it's like, here's your like $100 guarantee or something like that, and then you're going, wait a minute, like now I reflect and I'm going, where did the rest of that money go?
Yeah. Well, it's I've in meeting friends from the States, I've heard that, man. I've heard of like, yeah, we would do well, and I wonder if, like, again, how there's so many bands and how really the internet changed everything. How kids are, because we were kids going to shows, and the 300 people who went to those shows were kids, and what these kids are doing now, if there are. Like, I don't know who's in a local band around here because I'm too old. But, like, if the kids are still doing stuff, like, how is it there where you're at? Are there these more young bands or just less and less?
It's actually funny because even talking with my mom, because she was an elementary school teacher, you know what I mean? And, like, in middle school as well. So I would always ask her, I'm like, what are, like, the kids that, like, would be like me, what are they doing? And I've noticed that a huge chunk of, like, I guess you could say, like, maybe skater culture and, like, like, I guess what would be considered a punk kid. Like, I made the joke about him earlier, but, like, Little Peep type fans and stuff like that. That's, like, where they flocked is more in that direction, which is very interesting to me. Like, that's kind of like the new punk rock. And I'm sure I can get a lot of flack for that, but I don't care. I see it all the time. I see, like, my friends that work with, like, Live Nation and do, like, those big type of shows. And it's all those type of young kids that are just coming in, and their parents are bringing them, but like they're push moshing, and like it's just like that's where they went. They all flocked away, and that's what's like I guess cool to them now. And it's kind of like shit, we lost them.
Yeah,
they don't. It's harder and harder to get some of these young kids to want to see like a punk show or a hardcore show. You're kind of really relying on being like, okay, I'm really hoping that these 25-year-olds are able to make it out tonight, even though they have to work at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah. Like, you're crossing your fingers, but then these kids are dragging their parents who look absolutely miserable, which they would have been anyway if they were going to like the hardcore show. So the parents are just not winning all around. But these kids are just, that's where they're at. That's what they're doing. It's kind of crazy.
It's the shit changes and really it's the whole internet thing changed everything. I talk about it a lot where like, man made fire and that changed everything. The internet fucking has changed everything, even to this little corner of the music world, which is like the aggressive music scene. Like, it's fun to look back and also fun to think of where it's gonna go. Because I plan on doing this for a long time, and I'm sure you do too. So it's kind of like, I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. Who knows, man? Shit. But all we have right is right now sounding like old guys.
I'm hoping for the best. I'm just hoping for the best. I'm always trying to, extend the hand, and I'm trying always to find newer, younger bands, because I'm willing to give them the shot. Like I said, I'm like, hey, work with me. Let's work together. Let's do what we got to do. I mean, that's how you're going to keep new people coming through, because you see it so much. Like, even people that have been going to shows for 10 years, all of a sudden, like I said, oh, well, these 3 people, just for some reason aren't coming, or these people moved. Like, people moving is such a huge, thing about that kills a lot of stuff. Like, 2 people moved away. Okay, well, they were like my best buds, so I'm out. Okay, well, this person was my good friend. I'm out. Like, all of a sudden they're dropping like flies.
Yeah.
Oh, or even this band. This is the band that we all came out for. They break up. I'm not interested in new bands now. You're like, what? Like, how did that happen? They were just a local band. Yeah, but all my friends. I'm like, fuck, okay, I get it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I get it. But,
it's hard not to sound like an old, jaded guy. It really is. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, man. Fuck. It is what it is.
You just accept it.
Yeah.
You accept it, and then you gotta push forward, and you gotta do what you gotta do to try to find new kids coming through without being a dickhead. Because I'm not gonna knock anything that some of these kids are listening to, because it's whatever, listen to what you like, but maybe check this out too. That's always what I say. I'm like, oh, well, that's not really my cup of tea, but this is kind of mine. Maybe check it out. Maybe you like it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, I'll do that with stuff on the PA. That's one of my favorite things in the world, is playing music that I'm going, I think this crowd would be into this band. And then there's still, it's not all of them, but you'll get 2 or 3 coming up that are younger and be like, who is this? And that is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
You're going, here it is, check out this band, and while you're at it, check out this band, this, and they're like, okay. If they have, Spotify on their phone, they can literally just immediately go click, 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 like all those bands, listen to them on the way home, and then you're going, good, now you're checking them out, and then it just spirals, you know what I mean? All of a sudden you're into this whole thing, and all it takes is one band sometimes, just to discover, and it changes your whole world.
Totally. Well, we were those young kids, and somehow there was a version of an older person showing us something, so it's not a responsibility that we have, but at least we're fortunate to be in those shoes, to be like a dude like you who's playing some music that some new kids might get into, man. The future is bright, Max. We'll, I think, let's hope anyways. I'm talking like I know, but I don't fucking know.
You know what? I'm taking it. I agree. We haven't quite collapsed yet here in America, even despite all the things that we're currently going through.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I do these about an hour, and then I do this thing, the Hip Zine, which is just, we've been talking about music, and people listening get a little perspective of you. So I wanted to actually just play some pure hiss stuff, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
I'll do it after because I'm not that technical here, but I wanted to play Silhouettes off the 7-inch, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so with some editing and magic, this is Pure Hiss's Silhouettes. Silhouettes or Silhouette? Can't remember.
Yeah, Silhouette, yeah.
Okay. Right here.
Feeling one from the
and that was Pure Hiss. If you guys are going to MDF, I guess you'll fucking see them on Sunday. You said you guys are playing?
Yeah, we're playing the Sunday date. We're planning a few other things around MDF. I think we're going to do a couple shows out and back. We're kind of figuring that out right now, and hopefully some other stuff. We're all got a million busy schedules, but we'll make it work. I think this year is mainly going to be gigging when we can, and then just recording a lot. We're going to be doing a split with Government Flu, which would be really cool. Just another split 7-inch, and then I'm writing for an LP right now, so that's
cool.
On deck. I guess I can name drop the other bands that I'm doing too, like
Sure.
Law. We're getting ready to do an LP, which should be really cool. Trying to figure out who's going to release it. I have an idea, but I can't say anything yet. It's in the works. Dead Church just recorded actually the drums for an LP finally, and then I now have to do the bass and guitar tracks and do vocals. So that'll be coming out. So lots of music, lots of lots of stress of having to write new riffs and not be exactly like the old riffs. It's like, oh geez, how many more songs do I have in me?
and past that, the like indie soft spoken word folk Maxx solo record.
Yeah, hey, that's what helps for me. Like I said, I listen to those bands, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, cool, now I can write a heavy riff again. I'm like, I don't know how it works, but it does.
Whatever, man. Fuck, whatever works, man. That's cool. I'll put all the links in the description of the episode whenever it's out. But fuck, man. Let me just close this off, and then I'll just kind of keep talking real quick. But this is Take Her Wide, guys, 204 with Maxx. If you guys can check out his stuff, I'll link it in the description, so just click on that. Shout outs to the sponsors, DaveLevittPhotography.ca for the love, Wellington Brewery for the beers, DapperBeardOil.com, .com for the beard oil. Use the promo code TakeHerWide, free shipping. You get free shipping. And yeah, like, subscribe, rate, review on the Instagram. There's old episodes getting posted, so you'll see that shit. And yeah, just thank you guys listening for the continued support. Tell a friend. And yeah, I don't know. This is Take Her Wide, guys. We'll see you next week.